What's good? It's Woog. Please like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. Big news coming out of the heavyweight division as Deontay Wilder wins in court against Tyson Fury, where Wilder is now entitled to a trilogy fight versus Fury. Fury famously won the second fight via TKO stoppage after they fought to a draw in the first fight, where most of the people watching the first fight thought that Fury should have won the decision, even with the two Deontay Wilder knockdowns of Tyson Fury. But the second fight was just a one-sided beatdown as a 270-pound, 6'9" Tyson Fury with tons of skills came in and made Wilder look as one-dimensional as so many fight fans already thought that he was. Even as he was, holding the WBC title for 5 years, beat Chris Arreola, beat Malik Scott, beat Dominic Breazeale via first-round knockout. He stopped Luis Ortiz, King Kong, twice via TKO, KO. And those two knockouts remain the only two losses of Luis Ortiz's career till this day. But in that Deontay Wilder versus Tyson Fury rematch, Fury completely dominated him. From the opening bell, he actually came forward. A lot of people thought that if Fury was going to win, that he would have to do the same types of things that he did in his first fight against Wilder, the same things that Fury did against Vladimir Klitschko, where you just work behind the jab, show enough movement and elusiveness, win the 12 rounds, and get out of there. What most people didn't expect to happen was for Fury to come forward and take the fight to Deontay and be the aggressor on the front foot. I kind of suspected that that might be the case. In fact, I think I did a video just posing the question, what if Fury flips the script here and actually shows some of that same aggression that he showed against Derek Chisora in their rematch, Fury versus Chisora 2. So that Fury versus Wilder 2 fight was so bad that there really wasn't any appetite for a third fight. I mean, I think that most fans felt that they pretty much saw what they needed to see that rivalry resolved, right? So the biggest implication in this legal victory for Deontay Wilder is that it potentially puts Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua in jeopardy. This has been a fight that's been so difficult to make, and you've heard all the back and forth publicly between Eddie Hearn of Matchroom, DAZN, AJ's promoter, versus Bob Arum, Top Rank, along with Frank Warren. They're the ones who co-promote Tyson Fury. There's been a lot that's just been up in the air in terms of like the investment, the site fee for the coming out of the Middle East to make this fight come together. A lot of things were just being ironed out, and now this legal victory for Wilder totally puts a monkey wrench in the plans, where the options now are to pay Deontay Wilder a lot of step-aside money. Basically, it's the figure I'm hearing is roughly $20 million. Frank Warren, again, Tyson Fury's co-promoter, hopes that they could get it under that $20 million mark to give Deontay Wilder that money to step aside and then allow Tyson Fury and AJ to go through. Now, if that works out, okay, problem solved. You could proceed with the Fury versus AJ plans. And if it doesn't work out that way, then it looks like we are on a fast track to a rubber match. It's not really a rubber match because it wasn't one win versus one win coming into the third fight, but a trilogy fight between Tyson Fury and former WBC champ Deontay Wilder. And it sounds like the timetable for that fight would actually be like 2 to 3 months, not like 4 or 5 months down the road. So it looks like they would want to get that one going ASAP. In fact, Bob Arum's already kicked around a date. I think it was like July 24th. I'm going to check on that really quickly. But he basically already set aside a date to try to go forward with the rubber match, the trilogy match, because Bob Arum's saying, I'm not going to pay Deontay Wilder that step-aside money. And so he's saying, no, we're going to go ahead and make this Fury-Wilder 3 happen. Fury could handle this business, and then we keep things on track for Fury versus Joshua, seemingly within the same timetable of what they were talking about before, which was like mid-August, which sounds very unrealistic, right? Like a lot of these, elite fighters, I mean, when people are coming up in the amateurs, they fight like anywhere between like 4, 6, 7 times a year. Once you start winning championships and start making a lot of money, you start fighting like twice, maybe even once a year. In the case of Fury and Wilder, they haven't fought. Neither of them has fought since they fought that rematch a year and like 3 months ago. So they've been out of the ring for like 15 months each. And you expect me to believe that Tyson Fury is going to come back and fight in July against Wilder a third time. And if he beats Wilder that third time, which that's a whole other conversation, I get that 80-90% of the people out there think that this is going to be easy money for Fury. I'm saying not so fast. I mean, Wilder's right hand hasn't gone anywhere. And Fury, we don't know that he's going to be as sharp as he was for the rematch, as motivated as he was for the rematch. I think that Fury's motivated to fight AJ because that's a new challenge. And you can't underestimate anybody when there is a challenge and they are motivated to go ahead and seize the opportunity. But a third fight with Wilder, I don't know what Fury's preparation, motivation levels, and all that would be like. But if everything was as people assume that it should be, and Fury does come out of that third fight the winner, I have a hard time envisioning him popping back up in the ring like within another couple of months, 3 months, 4 months. I'm thinking, depending on the beating that he takes against Wilder, because again, this is boxing, and this is heavyweight boxing specifically. Anything could happen. I just don't know. I mean, what if Fury sustains a cut, gets injured in some way where it's going to take him some time to heal? I don't think you could just assume that you could just save that date for Fury AJ and then have Fury fight Wilder. I mean, that's just a huge risk. Remember before the rematch, the Fury versus Wilder rematch, when Wilder chose to take on Luis Ortiz the second time? I thought that was super risky and could possibly jeopardize the plans of the rematch. Because again, you're talking about elite heavyweights here. So there's a lot that's up in the air. It looks like everybody's trying to move fast. Eddie Hearn is basically saying, hey man, I've done everything, I've come through on my part. This is on them to fix. And so now Bob Arum, Frank Warren, basically Tyson Fury's representation, his attorneys and such, all of them, that whole team, are going to have to work things out with Wilder, and it looks like things are going to have to be worked out pretty quickly. I'm assuming that Wilder's going to want to take a handsome sum if there is going to be any step-aside money, and whether he should or shouldn't, I kind of think even if you're like a supporter, a fan of Deontay Wilder, you probably want him to go ahead and take the money here. And I think that those advising Wilder should probably advise him to take the money. Not because of any fear of Tyson Fury, a third fight with Fury, although that is a handful, but more so because, look, you make your money as a boxer while you can. It's a short window of opportunity to earn your peak potential earnings. And so if somebody's going to just give you $15, $20 million to not fight, take that money and you get to fight the winner. You're positioning yourself also to fight the winner of Fury versus AJ. So it's like for Wilder, if he takes the step aside money, let's say it's 15 mil, they fight, let's say AJ wins. Now you've got Wilder versus AJ. That's a huge payday, and you just won this step aside sweepstakes money, and now you're gonna have like the windfall of whoever comes out of Fury versus AJ to fight them, assuming that they don't end up fighting twice, because that's also a possibility, right? Like if there's any controversy or if people are clamoring to see a second fight, there is a possibility that this whole Fury versus AJ thing is gonna take a year or more, a year and a half or so, to resolve itself if there's gonna be a rematch. But Wilder can take the money and also can schedule a fight in the meantime. I don't think that he should fight anybody who's got a very good chance of beating him. I don't think that he should fight, let's say, Andy Ruiz. I don't think that's the tune-up fight that you need, nor is a Dillian White fight a tune-up fight that you need. Now, if this Fury versus AJ thing drags on and then you get through your tune-up fight, let's say Robert Helenius, the guy who upset Polish New Yorker prospect Adam Kownacki recently, right before the pandemic started. I think that Robert Helenius, maybe Chris Arreola, but no better than that, should be Wilder's next fight, or his comeback fight, if you will. But say he gets past that, and then Fury and AJ are still in the trenches. Let's say they had one fight, one guy wins, but they're scheduling a rematch. Then you could take on a higher, more elite opponent, and then you'll make more in that fight anyway. Wilder would make a lot fighting Dillian White, would make a lot fighting at Andy Ruiz. But Wilder needs to get back in the ring. He needs to continue training, continue trying to work on the major flaws in his game. Don't forget what got you here, though. You got that right hand. Just make sure that you could set it up, effectively and defend yourself. I mean, look, how do you game plan for a 6'9" Tyson Fury when he's super sharp and motivated? Like, that's a tough task for anybody, right? But the outlook for Wilder isn't as bad as people might have assumed when he was coming out of that that first loss. First loss of his career versus Tyson Fury. And by the way, look at how much the public turned on Wilder when that happened. Not only because of the fight, I get it, it's also because of all of his excuses and accusations, bizarre accusations, and just, his behavior words-wise after, and actions-wise if you include firing Mark Breland, his longtime trainer. So I get why a lot of people are sour on Deontay Wilder. All I'm saying is he has one loss in his entire career. So I'm saying not so fast on selling all your Deontay Wilder stock. Yes, we were seeing these flaws even when he was fighting Gerald Washington and Luis Ortiz and Tyson Fury the first time. It was evident that Wilder can lose a lot of rounds because he's not busy enough, isn't, exhibiting enough of the sweet science where you're landing a lot of punches per round to be stacking up the rounds in the rounds that you're not just blasting the guy to oblivion. So, yeah, there are a lot of things that he needs to retool. I'm just saying he is one big win away from being right back on top. So let's not forget that. Even if that win, if it has to come in the form of a win over Tyson Fury, seems like an extremely tall task. But yeah, let me know what you think about this arbitration legal fallout. Do you think Deontay Wilder is going to take the step-aside money? Bob Arum sounds like he doesn't really want to pay him a ton. Frank Warren might say, might be pushing the issue a little more like, we got to get this step-aside situation situated. But yeah, let me know your thoughts. Do you think Fury versus AJ happens in 2021? Do you think Fury versus Wilder 3 happens in 2021? And if Deontay Wilder does take a step-aside money, who do you think he should fight in his first fight back in 15 months? By the way, however I felt about Tyson Fury versus Anthony Joshua just after Fury beat Deontay Wilder in that rematch, I can't feel exactly the same because being out of the ring, and Fury has acknowledged this in multiple interviews with Max Kellerman and others, that inactivity, ring rust, is a real thing. He needs activity. He needs action. Fury, as much as Wilder, well, maybe not as much as Wilder, but Fury needs to get back in the ring. And, Anthony Joshua is your first fight back after being out of the ring for nearly a year and a half. Good luck. I would probably still favor Fury, but I got to take a long, hard look at that, and that would be a tough task in itself. But yeah, please leave your comments in the comments, like the video, subscribe to the channel if you are into the fight talk. I'm Woog. Thanks for tuning in.